Today it's impossible to imagine a modern army without an engineering corps. The British Army is no exception. Officially, the Corps of Royal Engineers has existed since 1716, and since then, their tasks have become increasingly numerous and complex. During World War II, it became clear that these types of troops also required heavy armored vehicle, and they had to be capable of participating in battle. That's how the Churchill Havre was built, Armored Vehicle Royal Engineers. For this specialist type of warrior, the tank was so effective that it only became outdated toward the mid-1950s. In the 60s, the British Army needed a new engineering vehicle. They used the Centurion Mark V as a basis for it, equipped it with a bulldozer blade for clearing blockages and a shot-barreled cannon for destroying pillboxes and fortified enemy positions. The tank was called the Centurion Mark V Havre. In the 80s, these vehicles underwent modernization and received additional armor, including Rommel-era blocks. It was in this form that the Centurion Mark V Havre participated in the Operation Desert Storm. The vehicle was retired in 1993. In War Thunder, this armored vehicle is a part of the British premium tank tree. Apart from the new gun and scoop, it differs from the ordinary Centurion with the location of its ammunition complement, which is now primarily kept on the floor of the crew space. Instead of the ammunition complement at the front, it has an extra crew member. Thanks to the era defense and composite screens, the vehicle's survivability is significantly increased. The coolest thing about it is the main weapon. The 165mm short-barreled Royal Ordnance L9 cannon, with an ammunition count of 53 rounds. Only armor-piercing high-explosive shells are available, although it's filled with 16 kilos of explosive material, and with a direct hit, it simply wipes an enemy vehicle off the map. Concerning the weapon, we'll express ourselves simply. We are completely convinced that the main purchasers of this tank will be players that know the power of high-caliber, high-explosive shells. Here we have the same story as the KV-2, only it's even more deadly at close range and harder to hit at long distances. The weapon is twinned with an L3A1 762mm machine gun with 3,250 rounds of ammunition. There is an identical gun on the turret with a supply of 1,250 rounds. The frontal armor is a complex. The upper and lower armor plates are 76mm thick, placed at a useful angle. The bulldozer scoop is made of 70mm construction steel, which is equivalent to 35mm of armor. This makes the scoop an additional armored plate capable of activating high explosive and chemical rounds at a significant distance from the main armor, which neutralizes the damage far more effectively than classical screens. The turret has a 50mm thickness in the roof to 160mm protection in the gun mantlet. The frontal projection has a protective armored skin 10mm thick, designed with the same principle as a multi-layer screen. From above, all this is covered with the ERA armor. It covers only the upper frontal armor plate and the top section of the turret, whilst the area below the turret remains vulnerable. However, even after the reactive armor on the turret is activated, the 10mm screen will work passively. The whole sides are also layered. With the main armor at 50mm, the tracks are covered with 6mm plate and 4 screens of composite armor with a thickness of 70mm. But they only cover half the hull, protecting the battle compartment and the ammunition from heat explosions. The rear has just 38mm of armor, with no screens. The roof of the turret is 29mm thick, while the engine compartment ranges between 8 and 14mm. This part of the tank is vulnerable to attacks from the air. In spite of the low armor values, the vehicle is very durable, primarily because of the large number of hit shells that the enemy is likely to use. The engineering Centurion's armor is designed to deflect precisely these types of shells. But if you get hit by an armor-piercing shell, you're probably done for. The engine provides 650 horsepower, which lets the Havre reach speeds of 21 miles per hour, up to 35 kilometers per hour, when moving forward. Not the best speed, but the vehicle isn't needed in the spearhead of an attack anyway. On the other hand, its 7.5 miles per hour, about 12 kilometers per hour, in reverse is excellent. On the whole, the tank's mobility is acceptable and allows it to act confidently in the center of an attack. The crew consists of 5 members. The driver and radio operator sit in the hull, while the turret houses the loader, commander and gunner. In battle, the Centurion Mark V Avre is a tank for precise shooting and good decision-making. Its strong points are close-range battle and ambushes. The gun makes it a KV-2 on steroids. It is best used at range of up to 400 meters, so towns or locations with complex terrain are best suited for this vehicle. Its own armor will only save it from high explosive shells, or if the enemy rushes with an imprecise shot, but if you open fire first, you won't get any return fire back. In other words, the Avre main's task is to hide and get as close to the enemy as possible, then make a guaranteed precise shot. In our case, precise means hitting the target's silhouette, or even just next to it, but ideally closer to soft spots, the side, roof, bottom, and so on. After this, move back to reload. As you reload, you can drink a cup of English tea and think about your next step. In urban conditions, this tactic is easiest of all. The main thing is to be a patient hunter. As for open terrain, here you'll have to act as a support weapon, staying in the second line and helping allies. You must, we repeat, must use your crew skill to determine the distance to the target, or determine it with your own calculations using the sight scaling. Otherwise, if you shoot at a rough guess, you'll reveal yourself or miss the target. Firing at long distances will be easier if you use aimer's view and enter sight range. The buttons for these skills are configured in the settings. This will allow you to fire at any range without losing your view in the sight. You can also fire from a closed position, using binoculars to correct it. On the whole, the Centurion Mark V Avre is a difficult vehicle to master. It takes time to get used to and demands special skills. However, if you master it, it will be fun to play for hours upon hours. This important thing is not to rush your cup of tea. Get more complete information on the Centurion Mark V Avre in the War Thunder Encyclopedia.